Good morning. Ayin Beis. We're in the last 120 pages of Ayin Beis, summarizing, reviewing, contextualizing. And we're on page 1370. We finished 1377. Bottom of 1377. We're going to page 1378. Okay. The general theme is Tataah, going deeper into the process of how Torah interacts with existence, if you wish. On the language he's been using here, the Chochma of Torah. Torah is Chochma Mitis, Chochma Ilaah, or Chochma Birur. Chochma Birur be'etzem, Chochma Ilaah. It's called Emes. And that Chochma is Bariru, is total clarity, creates total clarity, but that clarity has to now be brought into a world where there's no clarity. And that's what the process that Bina does. Bina, the discovery and the analysis and the in-depth comprehension of Bina, which dissects and breaks everything down, is what clarifies. Now he's bringing this back to understand Torah Shebiksav and Torah Sheba'al Peh, which he compared to Chochma and Bina. So Torah Shebiksav meir bo ha'era Chochma Ilaah, clear. However, there is B'kitzer B'remez B'chinas Nekuda Levad, Nekuda Atzmis, that's higher than the Tiyas, meaning there the reigns supreme is the unification, everything under the divine unity in everything. And that has to then be, and that then in turn comes into Pratim. Moshe Rabbeinu, who's a Keli, L'gila Eira Chochma, so Mikitzer Adover and Torah Shebiksav Yoda Kol Protei Dini HaMitzvah, he says. Like in Vikshartim, he saw all the details. Omnam Gam Protei HaMitzvah was said to Moshe Sinai. So both are true. Like he says, Mashmita Nemru Kol Hashem Protei Kach Kol HaMitzvahs Nemru Kol Hashem Protei, all the details. Which means essentially that the Chochma Ilaah of Torah Shebiksav radiated into the Chochma Tataah, but not the Chochma Tataah, I should say, into, well, later he's going to say Chochma Tataah, but basically into Bina, like he says. So even though Torah Sheba'al Peh is Bina, but Makom Meir b'zeh Gilui Eira Chochma. And he gave the example of Talmud Yerushalmi in contrast to Talmud Bavli. Okay. And then he said, Yeshleimer even, and no, before we get to that, and Moshe passed on that clarity of Chochma into Bina and Torah Sheba'al Peh to Yeshua l'Skenim, all the way to the Zugis, all the way till Rabbeinu HaKadosh. The Yeshleimer, that also the things that they derived from Svarosam, like the Rambam says, that there are things that they came to through their own theories, that also has an Eira Chochma in it. This is all the Tanoim, the Bali HaMishnah. Just like we talk about Smicha. The Smicha Ish Mepi'ish goes back to Smichas Moshe, Smichas Yeshua through Moshe, which is the Koyach HaChochma that Moshe gave to each generation. And that's why Tanoim are called Esonim. The Asius Tanoim is Esonim, like the founder, the foundations, the strong, unwavering, the mighty ones. Meiz De'oretz, Esonim Meiz De'oretz, the foundations and the pillars of the earth, because they're the Miyazdim of Torah Sheba'al Peh, Maskele Eson. And these are the halachas that Rabbeinu HaKadosh documented in the compilation of Mishnah. Then at the end, he brings the Rambam, two sources, the Rambam and the Akdama to Pirush Mishnayos that speaks about the things that were in Kabbalah's Mipimesha, and then the day as they came to Svara, some of them didn't have Machlekas and some of them did have. And the Movei Talmud of Shmuel Hanogid, he speaks that Mishnah's Torah Sheba'al Peh, you say that Torah She'itiku, that they copied literally Ish Mepi'ish till Rabbeinu HaKadosh. So all this covers essentially Mishnah and Mikra. Torah Shebiksav, Torah Sheba'al Peh, but the Mishnah part, which we learned clearly earlier as well, is Ish Mepi'ish. The Mishnah is what they received. So though there were things that they derived through their thinking, but it was primarily what they received ish mipi ish all the way from Moshe. So it has that clarity. And that's what Rabbeinu HaKadosh documented when he compiled the Mishnah. And as I explained yesterday, it's exactly why he compiled the Mishnah. Because, Eis Lases Lashem Hefedo Teresecha, it was becoming obvious that if it would not be written down, it would be, God forbid, forgotten or definitely compromised. But we still have to understand Talmud. Talmud he did not explain yet in this context. Explained it earlier that it came through the efforts of the Amoraim, but we'll soon discuss it in this context of Chochma and Bina. So now let's continue on top of page 1378. Pages can be found at ayinbeis.com, and let's learn inside. So he says, "Va'inyan hu." The inyan of this is the hinei mashenimshech b'chochma lo de Torah shebiksav lechochma Tataah b'Torah sheba'al peh. So now he's calling Torah shebiksav chochma lo and Torah sheba'al peh chochma Tataah. Before he said it was bina. Imi yesh Torah sheba'al b'bina, because that's where. But as we shall learn, bina is going to be primarily Talmud, because that's where you need in Mishnah. The Mishnah is already buttered because it's ish mipi ish. They received it clearly from generation to generation. And he said earlier that the way Rabbeinu HaKadosh received it, I'm going back to these words on page 1370, where is it? 75. No, I'm sorry. 1373. He said, Hakol hayu b'birur bli shum bilbul v'taruz bli machlekas klal. We're talking about how Rabbeinu HaKadosh received it. Sidr ha-Rebbe hakol hayu mekubel ish mebirsh ad azugis. So the truth is that even though Torah sheba'al peh in general is bina, but if you really break it down, he's saying now that Torah shebiksav, the Chochma Tataah, Torah sheba'al peh, hu mebchinas ha-Midos shebachachma. Now what's nimshach from Chochma Ilaah, that clarity of Chochma Ilaah into Chochma Tataah of the oral Torah is the Midos of Chochma. So now we're already talking about the Midos. Remember that Mishnah, in contrast to Mikra is rooted in Chabad. Mishnah is rooted in Chagas, and Midos, and that's why it manifests in the world of Yetzirah. Mishnah be Yetzirah. So now he's saying that as it comes from Torah shebiksav Torah sheba'al peh, you take it with clarity, but it's through the Midos of Chochma. So it's not Chochma, pure Chochma itself, it's the Midos of Chochma. And that's why we say Torah comes. Nafkas means like Yitzia. It's nafak. It comes out. It's extracted from, or derivative of, or derived from Chochma. Why? The sheirish haTorah mebchinas Chochma. It's mechachma nafka. It comes from Chochma. Avalosha nafkas sheyotza begili mehelam the Chochma Ilaah. The word nafkos is not just a gilia helam. Well, I don't want to. He does say begili mehelam the Chochma Ilaah. Let me correct myself. It is a type of gilia, but it's a gili. It's not just the way it is within. Nafkos means it's coming out. Something is emerging. So that's what he's saying, that this is emerging from Chochma Ilaah, from the helam of Chochma Ilaah. Like we learned earlier, that in Mikra, it could be concealed. In Chochma, it can be concealed because it's a nekuda, b'ksara, just a concentrated point. So here, Chochma nafkas is coming out. V'heim b'chinas Midos shebachachma, she'em b'chinas hagili. So in Chochma itself, you could have the kernel, the seed of Chochma. The Midos of Chochma means it's already being expressed in some form of some channel, some expression. Guinness hagili. Umepnei zeh, and due to this, nikra Torah lashon heirah. That's why Torah is from the word heirah, directive, guide, instruction. Heirah shemoira, which indicates, the word heirah means it's in the indicator. It's guiding us. Shemeira umavdil b'midas the chesed gvura shalah l'tomei or l'toher, l'tamei or l'taher, u'laser or l'hatir. So Torah, the Chochma itself is within Chochma, but the Torah is an indicator. It's like a guide. It's instructing us. What is it? showing us. It's like a light that's shining, that's telling us and separating between the midas of chesed and gvura. What's chesed and gvura? Chesed means that this is allowed. Gvura means it's not allowed. L'tameh, it's to impurify, or l'tameh or l'taher, or to purify. That's gvura and chesed. Ulasid or lahatir, or to forbid, prohibit, or lahatir, or to permit. That as soon as you speak about Torah as a directive of what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, what's permitted, what's not permitted, what's pure and what's impure, the Torah is coming already in a form of gili. So the Torah itself, in its purest form, could be above those kavim, like we learned earlier. But here we're talking about how the midas of Chochma are revealing what that Chochma wants of us. So, for example, if you learn Torah in Atzilus or in higher levels, you can learn Torah in a theoretical way, an abstract way that doesn't necessarily come into what's the word I want to use? Not Talmud. There's Yagul Torah v'Yadir, and there is Lasuka Shmaita Liba de Hilchasa. That's coming into here. We see the Torah is coming into some directive of how to behave. So that means immediately it's coming into some form of structure. Like the pasuk says, Torah is coming to separate between that which is impure and that which is pure. That's already more than just the pure kernel of Chochma. This is Chochma as is coming into Midas Shebachach. V'heim b'chinas shisha Midas. And in general, these break into 6 midas, Shebachachma, Shenimshachu b'chinas Malchus Shenikra Chochma Tataah. So these are the 6 midas of Chochma, the 6 midas Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, that Nimshach into Malchus, which is called Chochma Tataah. So Torah so appears. That's why Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, there's 6 different sections of the Mishnah corresponding to these Shisha midas that are Nimshach into Malchus, which is Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is Chochma Tataah. I believe he said this also earlier when he spoke about. Where did he speak about the 6 midas? Second. Yeah, that was back. Just a second. Okay. Let me stop here. Anybody wants to ask anything? For some reason, I remember the Shisha Storim. How come I don't see it now? Oh, okay. On page 1370, spoke about the Vov Tzavas, the Zodi Yitzira. Okay. There are no questions? Everything is clear? Okay. Okay. Let me just see. I just want to see. Okay. Continuing on. Behein Shisa Sidre Mishnah. These are the six orders of the Mishnah. Mishisha Midas Sheba Malchus. They come from the 6 Midas of Malchus. Shemeir Behem Bebchinas Vov Ksab is the Abba, which within them radiate and illuminate the 6 facets of Chochma. So it originates from Chochma, Ilaah, which is Chochma V'Teisha B'Ksav. The Midas of Chochma are the 6 facets manifest into the 6 Midas. They go into Malchus, and that's the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. And from there, we learned it goes back into the Vov Ktzavis of Yetzirah. That's where Mishnah resides. Ubeprotis, and when you break it down, Hein Shishim Mesechtes. These are the 60 tractates. So we know there's Shishim Heima Malachis, there's 60 tractates in the whole of Shas. The Hein, what makes them 60? They're the Yud Sviris Protisha B'chol Midah. It's 10 times 6, or 6 times 10. It's the 10 spheres in each of the 6 Midas. So in general, it's 6 orders, Shisha Sidri, 6 orders, but 60 Mesechtes, 60 tractates, which is again a number 6, a multiple of number 6. The Kedem, the Kedem Mishnah, the Rabbeinu HaKadosh, before Rabbeinu HaKadosh compiled the Mishnah, we know Hoyutov Reish Sidrei Mishnah. There were 600 Sidrei Mishnah, not 6, but 600. Uiskalus Eid Yud Miyud. So again, it's a multiple of 6. But this time, it's 6 times 100, 6 times 10 times 10. So it's not just 10 within the 6, it's 10 with 10 within the 10 within the 6, which is 600. Now, does this mean that before Rabbeinu HaKadosh there were many more Mesechtes and they were forgotten? I don't think so. I have to look up what the Tov Reish. Does anybody know? Does anybody recall learning that? Tov Reish Sidrei Mishnah. Not sure.
I think the Alter Rebbe brings it down in Tanya. I don't know more details what it means.
Yeah, I want to look it up. I'll look it up. But the point he wants to make is that there were many, also the multiple of 6. Everything is 6. Okay. Behirah zu. And this Hirah of Torah, the directive of Torah that's telling us what's Tameh, what's Ta'ir, what's mutter, what's Asr, what's mutter. Kamoishi b'bchinas Chochma Birur. Kamoishi b'bchinas Chochma Birur mebchinas. Oh, I'm reading it incorrect. This directive, the way it's in Chochma, it's Birur mebchinas Midas sheba Chochma. It's clear, meaning it's not Birur means it's cleansed of. It's not shaped yet by anything. Let me read the whole sentence before I explain. From beginnis Midas shebachom haynu shehem beginnis hariyah the ayin hasechel sheroya seemes k'mo she'adam roya le'er hashemesh le'er haner. I'm not sure what he means. Berura beginnis Midas shebachachma, that it's higher than. That means it's a clarity that's deeper than the Midas. Is that what he means? I think he means that. Chochma berura beginnis Midas shebachachma. Because it's coming from a clarity, like he says, like someone who sees something. So it's one thing when you read in the Torah, it tells you this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do. But in Chochma, there's a certain clarity. The one who stands on the level of Chochma has this crystal clarity, like he sees the truth. Like somebody who sees something to the light of the sun or the light of a candle. That's how clear it is. Let's read on and we'll see where he's going with this. I think he's trying to say that in Chochma, it's a total clarity, whereas once it comes into Midas, it's not as clear, but we'll see. Let me just see if that's correct. I may be wrong about that. V'zeu shenikra le'ra zu k'mo shebachinus chochma berura. I'm not sure whether the berura goes on chochma or chochma is berura mebchinas midas shebachachma. V'zeu shenikra shishim melachos. And that's why it's called the 30 queens. So Shishim Malachas, Shmeinim Palakshim, Ba'alomas Ein Misper. So the Shishim Malachas is the Mishnah. Ukamayim Masnisa Malkusa. Like we learned that Mishnah is called Malkusa. Mishnah is compared to a queen. Ukamoy HaMelech, Shegezer Eimer. Just like a melech. Why is it compared to a king or queen? Because just like a melech decrees and says and declares, Kain masnisa malchus shegezer ba'ayin haseichel shezeh kosher v'zeh posel zeh osher v'zeh muter. The same masnisa malchus, a Mishnah has that same type of authority. Shegezer ba'ayin haseichel. Here it's not gezer as a decree from a king, but with the clarity, the vision of the mind. The Torah is so clear, it's telling us this is kosher, this is not. This is prohibited, forbidden, and this is allowed. So it's a clarity that's coming from the Chochma of Torah, exactly like a king who gives clear orders, do this, don't do that. But now he's saying it's shishim, so it is coming into the Midos. Let me see again. Yeah, I guess there's two levels here. The way the king has that clarity, the Mishnah has that clarity from Chochma law. I still have to get back to the language. We'll see in a moment. So he says like this now. V'hainu, shedavar zeh. What is the Torah telling us? That the thing that the Torah says is forbidden or allowed is saying this davar yochel liyas tikun v'halah. The Torah is telling us clearly that this behavior that you're doing it makes it capable. This thing can be repaired and can be elevated. Sheyalu lamayla, and it should be elevated to kedusha, to above. Ve'ena osir v'kosher b'klippus, like he says in Tanya. If the Torah tells us it's osir comes from the meaning bound. It's like trapped. It's locked. Osir b'derech hitzenim is the language. Osir v'kosher b'derech hitzenim. But if it's mutter comes from the word, it's unlocked. It's untied. That means you could be miled to kedusha. Who could tell you that? Only the Chochma Birur of Torah could tell you this is kosher, and therefore could be elevated into kedusha, into holiness. And it's not ve'ena osir v'kosher b'klipa. It's not bound and trapped. And osir, like osir as in prison, imprisoned or bound in klipa. U'kamaychel heter. Like a meichel, like a food that's a permissible food. U'kabehema tehera, and like a pure animal. Sheksheda lekarban, that's kosher to be able to be brought as an offering in the Beis HaMikdash. Liyas reich necheach, to be reich necheach laHashem. Reich necheach laHashem. That means that it's able to elevate and bring pleasure to God. That's one side of it. Or the Torah is telling us, v'zeh osir v'kosher, and this thing is osir v'kosher, is not permitted, is bound. And kosher, osir means like imprisoned and bound, b'derech hitzenim, v'lo yochalal is b'kedusha elikis, and it's not capable of being elevated to kedusha elikis. So you could say, 1 second, I see two animals. How do I know that this one can be elevated, this one cannot? Only Chochma Birur, the clarity of Torah, can tell you that. You can't guess on your own, and you can't see it with your eyes. The Torah tells you what will identify this thing as kosher, what will identify it as not. So this Chochma Birur is clarifying that for us. And that's the clarification that happens with the power of Torah. It's a bit of momaylo lamato. Because it's not coming through our effort, it's coming, the Torah is telling you, this you should eat, this you're not allowed to eat. This you could bring as a carbon, as an offering, this you cannot bring. Through the Eira Chochma of Torah, the light of wisdom of Torah, that has the power to distinguish and separate between good and evil. Even there was a number of many concealments and coverings, meaning Alakus is covered, but the Torah has the power to pierce the darkness and shine the light to tell you what is right and what is wrong. Litches chelkei hara, and has the power to pierce and push aside the chelkei hara, the negative parts. That's exactly what Birur is. Birur is like taking out the pits and pitting the fruits, or getting rid of the waste, the bad parts. Litches, to push them aside. There's another word I want to use for that. What's the word I want to use? Litches tchiyeh. Discard. The abba dechas chitzenim, like it says in Kabbalah, that the of Chochma, decha, has the power to dispel or discard. You have the word dechi. Somebody has a word for the word decha? I said discard, push aside. It's another word for push aside.
That's the right way. Shovel away.
I can't hear the word. What are you saying?
Shovel away.
No, not shovel. No. Decha is a word. Okay.
It's pushed away. They say doche Shabbat. It pushes away Shabbat.
I said push away. But there's another word in English, a good word. Okay, whatever. The likach chelkei hatev, and to retain. It's the opposite of retain. Like discard and retain the good parts. So literally, physically, when you take, let's say, wheat, chaff and dross, or you take a fruit and you want to pit it, you want to get rid of the pits. So what do? You know how to. That's called birur. Tevera. Bir pselis and the mahapri, or pri mahapselis. You're taking the fruit and you're getting rid of the waste, or the opposite, you're taking the waste and getting it out of the fruit. So this is what Torah does. The Chochma Brura, the clarity of Torah, is exactly what that is, the power of Birur. Ukamoi harmumius shala'orim b'yeser, like the deception of a person who's a very deceitful person. The deceit or deception of someone who's an Adam b'yeser. Kamei Lovan Arami. We talk about Lovan Arami. He was considered Adam b'yeser. They also say about the Nachash haya Adam. It's sly, shrewd, manipulative. Shagam misha yaimek seichli v'daite, and they sometimes can be very smart. These manipulators, these con artists, or these charlatans. So even someone who immerses themselves can. If someone's really good con artist, even if you immerse yourself and you try to figure it out, they could fool you. May not be able to recognize and distinguish the depth of the deception. I don't know if any of you have ever been conned, but we know good con artists, they're excellent. So even if you're very smart and you maimik sichle, like he says, v'daite, sometimes you can't recognize that this person is a liar or this person is a manipulator. Shebahelim gadol, because the mirma, the deception or the duplicity, is very deeply concealed. Rak al pirias ayin aseichel. You need to have a clarity that's more than just intelligence. Someone that has that rias ayin aseichel, the vision of the eyes and the head, some deeper clarity than just intelligence. Sheroye gam behelim v'cheshech, that's able to pierce and see through even darkness. There are people who can see through these type of the charlatans and deceivers. They can see through the helam, the concealment, and the cheshach and the darkness. Literally like a light that pierces darkness. So some of us will be fooled. The darkness will be stronger than us, and we won't be able to see. But someone who has that riyas ayin haseichel, which he's comparing here to Torah, Chochmas HaTorah, that's what he's saying. Like someone who sees to the light of the sun, like he said before, a candle. For who rak nekudas era emes, and this is only in the nekudas era emes. Someone that has that kernel, that point of light of truth, of clarity of truth, shenigla legabov, for him is revealed before him, kol aroma v'sheker, every deception and lie. Ukamoi ani chochma. Oh, the bottom they say shachanti
Ormo.
orma.
Ani chochma shachanti ormo.
I, wisdom, are able to shachanti. What does shachanti mean here? Able to see through?
To
Or
dwell,
to discern?
maybe.
Huh?
To dwell, like Shechina.
Like Shekhinah? Like shachanti as in
Dwelling.
What?
Dwelling.
Dwelling.
Shechina. Shaitan.
Yeah. The Bekoyach Hariyah, the Chochma, because with the power of vision, the visualization power of Chochma, levarer gam b'chinas harama. Orma. That has the power to also clarify this, even in the area of deception. Ukama Yaakov. He's bringing Yaakov. Remember, he brought Yaakov earlier, the top of page 1375. Emes. Kuma Yaakov. So Yatom the Emes canal. Yaakov was a Tom the Emes. He was pure or innocent or wholesome and truthful. He was able to clarify, or I would say refine here, to clarify and also separate, clarify the Birurim b'tsein Lavan, the sheep of Lavan. So Chassidus explains he wasn't just a shepherd; he was actually going into the place of deception of Lavan. It was Lavan's sheep, and he was making a birur there. Uksiv sonoi necha. I think there's a Rachel that says that, right? Lift your eyes, v'rei sonoi necha, and look and behold. So you see the word riyah, necha and riyah. Bringing that as a raya, that you need the clarity of riyah of chochma, b'bchinas riyah de chochma. That's the level Yaakov had.
I
He was
think
able
the
to see
Malach
through.
said it to Yaakov.
Huh?
The Malach said that to Yaakov.
Yeah. So you see that Yaakov had the level of riyah of chochma that could see through and actually elevate and clarify even in the deceptive world of Lavan. And this is the true idea of Torah That's what means light of Torah. That it's a Eira Emes. It shines a light in a dark place. Shemeiris acheshech. Illuminates the darkness. And now he's going back. And this light is in the written Torah. And it comes revealed in the oral Torah. The Masnisa Malkusa. In the Mishnah, the queen. The Mishnah, queen Mishnah, essentially. Like we said before, compared to Melech, to Malka, that gives that clarity of what is right and what is wrong, like a Melech that's Geyser. So this Oyer of Chochmah clarity is in Torah Shebiksav, which in turn comes revealed in Torah Shebal Peh and Mishnah. Shegeyser ve'emer al pi er Chochmasi is baruch l'tamei l'tayir. That decrees and states according to the Er Chochmah of Torah Shebiksav, l'tamei l'taya. So when you look at Mishnah, what are you getting? Halachas that are telling you this is to impurify, this is purified based on the Chayra Chochma of Torah Shebiksav. The B'Torah Shebiksav leibo kol zeh begili b'dibur b'derech prat. Because in the written Torah, all of this does not come revealed in detail. Ligzer Eimer al Eifan HaBirurim, to decree and tell us on the exact Eifan HaBirurim, the method of how we find this clarity. That apach nitzutza shenafla b'klipas nega, with the 288 sparks that fell from Shviras HaKelim and Klipas Nega. So the 288 sparks scattered everywhere. So Torah Shebiksav, it's still B'kitzur. You need the Mishnah to specify the details of the Eifan HaBirurim, be able to come away with halachas to know what's Tameh, what's Toyer, and so on. Midos the Chochma Tataah. So that's Chochma of Torah Shebiksav. It's in the Midos of Chochma Tataah, like he said, the Midos is where it gets revealed in detail. Shabbatei Shebal Peh, the 6 Midos, the Shisha Zdarim, Shishim Meloches, and so on. But Begili B'dibur, there it comes revealed B'dibur in speech. B'dvar Melech Shalten, that the king with his words rules, governs. Levarer, to clarify. Ulahavdil, and to separate. B'protis ben Tuma v'tara v'isr v'heter. Or Tomei v'toher and Osir v'mutar v'heter, Isr v'heter. To separate between that which is pure, Lahavdil ben Tomei v'toher, like you said before, between the impure and the pure, and between what is forbidden, what is prohibited, and what is allowed. So what he has here, he broke down here, is a more of a breakdown of Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebal Peh, with Torah Shebiksav being more the Chochma, and Torah Shebal Peh is the Midos of Chochma as they come into Malchus. Chochma Tataah. But it's informed by the clarity of Chochma Ilaah of Torah Shebiksav. Okay. Any questions?
The concept of the concept of the birurim also we discussed it extensively in volume 2, I think it was, with the whole Shabbat meal and how we could separate the good from the bad on Shabbat and not the other way around, because we're a much more elevated level. So the higher up you go, it becomes more about seeing the good and not so much the bad.
Okay. Yeah, he I think he refers to he's going to refer, or has referred to Shabbos and to the man. Yeah. That is correct. Shabbos is connected to Torah. I think some point he brings, I think, the Birurim, as they were discussed about Shabbos. Maybe later a bit. Yeah. That's correct. Any other questions or comments? So the next section, I'll probably learn it, but maybe something we should just go over quickly.
Basically, it means that the higher it is, it's more covered from us, but really it's a Chochma Birur. Everything is clear there. But from us, we are not capable to accept it, to mekabel it, until it goes to lower, which is
When
coming
you
in
say
detail.
us, you mean, are you talking about the Bali Mishnah? You're talking about after the Mishnah?
No, us, I mean to us, the Nevoim after the Mishnah.
So that's he's going to discuss in the next page. 13, he didn't get back to Talmud. He didn't talk about Talmud yet. This is all talking about Mishnah, where there's still the clarity of the Ish Mipi Ish of Chochma Ilaah informing Chochma Tataah. Still talking here in the level of Mishnah. In the next page, 1379, he's going to start speaking what happens now after Mishnah, where not everything is clear in the Mishnah, and the Amoraim are trying to understand the Mishnah better. That's what he's going to discuss what you just said, where we don't have that clarity, and what do we do then? Now, he already talked about it earlier when he spoke about Mishnah and Talmud, but now he's speaking about it in the context of Chochma and Bina. Remember, at the end of the day, he still didn't really talk about Bina, the Mokam HaMizbarer of Bina. Here, he did not speak about a lack of clarity. Here he's talking about how the clarity of Torah Shebiksav is informing the Mishnah, which till Rabbeinu HaKodesh had the ha'ara of Chochma Ilaah. The question, what happens when Chochma Ilaah is no longer shining? And you don't have that clarity. That's going to be a big part of the discussion going forward when he moves into Talmud. Like he spoke about on page 1373 and 1374, that there we're talking about where the Chochma Ilaah is not shining. So right now we're still talking about when it's shining. I'm just clarifying where we're at. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be a whole section on that. Keep in mind that the bigger theme, Tataah, is ultimately of bringing the highest levels of clarity of Tataah, we called before Atzmi of Tataah, all the way down below into our world. But that is a process, because first we begin by first finding some clarity, like simply halacha clarity of what's right, what's wrong. But as we continue the work of refining this world according to Tataah, ultimately we're going to transform the world to be able to be a keli for the Atzmi of Tataah, meaning Mikra and even higher, the highest levels. So this is the broader context. And this is all Amshacha Mamayla Lamata, the Birur Mamayla Lamata, like he says, in contrast to the interface Mamata Lamayla that we learned before page 1350. So the broader context of this is that he's going to explain the pasuk, the idea of Ner Mitzvah and Tataah, and the context of Ner Hashem Nishma Sodom. Right now he's explaining what Torah accomplishes. But he's doing it by methodically first building Mikra, Mishnah, Talmud, and then they're going to come together and you'll see that even in the darkest, when we don't have Chochma Ilaah, through Torah Sheba'al Peh, through our effort and through our learning, we can come to clarity. And like he said before with Bina, can reveal new ideas that even the Kudus HaChochma does not have in a revealed way, which we'll get to. We're not there yet. Just giving you the lay of the land here. So he's going to talk a little more now about Torah Shebiksav and Torah Sheba'al Peh, Mishnah. Then on page 1379, he's going to start with Talmud. And that's going to go for a good number of pages till 1386. So we have like another 7-8 pages to go before he gets back to the three levels of Makabel, the moon, the luminous stone, and the vision of the eye. But he clearly, you see here, has brought the Ariya vision of Torah, Chochma within Torah. So essentially, a person who's a complete Torah person, when you go to them, you ask them a question, you get a clarity from them that you're not going to get from someone who's not saturated with Torah. You know, they'll give you very clearly, this is what the Torah says about this situation. And you can see when you go to a master, someone who really knows his stuff, it's not just how quick he's at it, but you can see he's completely, thoroughly, completely saturated. Like I said, he's completely permeated with Torah thinking. He thinks like the Torah thinks. And that provides a clarity. Then you meet people who don't have clarity at all. And they're completely confused. And they don't know how to find right from wrong. I mean, look, we don't have to explain today in our generation, look what's going on. There are people, unfortunately, so many people have been brainwashed by false narratives, are ignorant, convinced that they're right. That's a completely confused world. We need the clarity of Torah more than ever. So he's explaining now that process of bringing that clarity into a world where you don't have that clarity. But we haven't reached there yet. Meanwhile, he's explaining how it is. We started from Mikra, went to Mishnah, which makes sense because the Eibishter wanted it to be generational, that first we should move from the highest level to the next level, and then that will empower. Imagine if we didn't have Mikra Mishnah and we came into a world of Talmud right away, we wouldn't even have a guide to look at. Here, the Amoraim at least had the Mishnah to turn to, and the Baalei Mishnah had their teachers all the way back to Moshe, to Hashem. Remember, the point is, how do we bring the clarity of divine wisdom or divine light into a world that's completely dark? So you have now the generational shifts that went from Moshe Rabbeinu, Mikpia Gvura, Moshe Kibbutz Torah Messinai, Masar Yeshua, Yeshua Liskenim, Yiskenim Lenevim, etc., all the way to Anshe Knesset Adel, to Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and then further. So we're getting here is also the chain of command, so to speak, the hierarchy of passing on the clarity of Torah, because that's the biggest question. How do we know that what we have today is the clarity of Torah that was given at Sinai? And that's a big part of what we're learning here. So it's the process of bringing the truth of God through Torah, into the world that we live in. So right now we're at the Mishnah stage, and we'll soon be moving over to the Talmud stage, which we've already covered in general, but now he's breaking it down even further. So that's basically where we're up to right now. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Okay. So I think we'll stop here. The end of the paragraph, close to the bottom of 1378. And we're moving along. Yeah.